they tell us no so many times.
Yeah.
And they use the wrong wording or verbiage to shut them on, or to not let them have it. That we now grow up not wanting to negotiate anymore. So that every kid is born a genius. And then grow up. Why? Because if you see a child, yeah, I mean, they do so much stuff that we're like, don't do that, and don't do that, and don't do that. And that's the programming that gets us to where we are now. And a lot of times, that programming is the one that affects us in the future, into how we develop as social individuals, on how we developing a skill. Okay. We definitely have to manage our kids. But one of the things that I had with my son growing up was that he needed to tell me why. Because he started negotiating on dilemmas when he was like 3 or 4 years old. And he would tell me why he needed the money. And a big part of it is that half of it is going to savings. Me being a banker first, we started to make a little meeting. And it was just nice to develop them that way. And it's super important. This is a kid that's 20 years old with 2 majors, graduated from UC Davis, got his AA prior to high school. And UC Davis gave him he got a full academic scholarship. So now he's like, so I'm 20 years old, still a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm telling him, go get it, go get it every day. I mean, it's not like it's gonna go on. If you see him, he's literally 6'2", but he's like always. So when he sits down, he still looks like a little kid. And so he's a very smart guy. But I like to think that my ex-wife and I had a saying in how he grew up. Because he would, my favorite part with him is to have discussions and conversations about like any subject. Okay, and why he's going to use that. We got into discussions about politics, quit that. Just like with anybody else, just quit talking about politics, especially in this business. Okay? So negotiating and selling is something that we do constantly. When you go to a movie and you go to your friend's party and you tell them, oh, you have to go see that movie. You recommend stuff, right? Well, you sell them that movie. You're literally trying to convince your friends, or you as your friends, that this movie is really good. I like it, you're gonna like it. That's a sale. So in our lives, whether kids, whether spouses, whether co-workers, we're always trying to influence. And it's all negotiation, because at the end, it's 2 people agree that it's going to go that way and move forward. So it's not something that we should avoid or fear. It's an everyday part of life. Like I said, negotiation is just creating a win-win where 2 parties don't feel that one of them lost. And I'm going to tell you something, in real estate, my experience today, that the ones that get in the way of that a lot of times is the egos of the agents. Okay, I have experience in escrows where it's almost like an arm wrestling thing, that somebody has to be a winner. Our fiduciary for clients is for them to win by selling their property, for them to win by acquiring and getting the property that they're buying. Right? So a lot of times we create an atmosphere of lack of communication. The worst thing you can do as a buyer's agent is not communicate. Remember, in the last two sessions, I was explaining on how to get your fiduciary, your buyer or seller, how to start that communication with you before you're gonna start thinking of making an offer. And that is by reading the instructions from the MLS. That's one of the biggest mistakes that not just new agents, old agents make. They call the agent, I'm gonna show you your property, and they ask me questions that they should have just read through the instructions. And the other agent is like, I mean, it's just like, not thinking very highly of you at that point, right? So that's the first impression. Then you submit an offer, though you put an introductory email or an outline of the offer on the email. And the offer said, do it in 1 PDF and you send them 6. So I got as much as 12 attachments. And that just makes you look, like I told you before, when I receive offers from people, before I decide I'm gonna work with the agent, I check the production, I check if they have disciplinary action, and why? Because I'm representing my buyer or my seller. Right? I want to make sure that I'm going to be working with a straight shooter. I'm going to see if this person actually, in a way, knows what to do. But if it's the best, and it's a really good offer, then I will call it, even if it's a brand new person. I said, so who's going to be working with? Right? And that's for me, because I see that's the offer that is best for my client. Even though I prefer to work with more experience, you just do it by communicating, making and setting expectations. And that's super important. This right here, this is like KW's DNA. Okay? And when we, by the way, I still don't remember my son there, but like and if we abide by this, you know, they're not the 10 commandments, but pretty close. So,
Well, my mentees are asking me to live with this.
well, that's what I was looking for. It doesn't.
Where's the view at the top?
Invite. That's weird, because normally it just says admit.
Yeah.
Do
Click next to their name,
what?
click next to their name, like Suzette.
Oh. I was wondering where Brooke was, because she's supposed to be. I think we got everybody. If you guys see anybody else pop up, if I'm looking that way, please let me know. Usually just one line on top that says admit. Okay. I want to apologize, everybody on Zoom. I had not figured out how to let you guys in. So we're gonna do
We're upstairs, don't worry. We're upstairs. We would have come down and kicked your butt if we had to.
Oh.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, thank you. So, like I was saying, this right here should be our code of ethics. This right here should be sort of like our little bylaw on how we operate as a realtor. Because I mean, the way we win, everybody has to win. The buyer and the seller. Okay, it's not about the realtors, like I said before. The integrity. And what's integrity? Just doing the right thing. So when we take our license and we pass that test, we're saying that we're gonna do the right thing. So they don't really ask too much from us, just doing our job. The customers, they should always come first. Right? I have had, I had negotiations where the agent, I asked him a question that he should be asking the client. And they give me the answer. Right there and then, I go, can you do me a favor? Nice. Can you please ask your client? And then the client gives the opposite response.
Oh.
Okay, but that makes them look bad. But also, it's not our job to decide for a client. Our job is to, well, Simon said it yesterday, right, in the meeting, is to inform. It is to provide education, is to provide information and guidance through the process because we are the experts. But the decision makers are our buyers and sellers. Commitment. In what? Everything you do. In everything. Communication. Oh, this is actually seek first to understand, to be understood. That is, I believe, one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. It's in that book. Ideas before result, and I'm not even going to try to say that word because I can't say it. I tried earlier. Teamwork. That's exactly what it is. It's two opposite, in a way, two opposite teams. We have a transaction coordinator, we have our brokers, we have our broker, we have. So when we communicate, on our side of our team, we have to do the right thing and win for our client. And that should be the case on the other side. So when things go sideways on a transaction, do not wait until something has completely gone wrong to inform either your mentor, to inform your broker or your team lead. Okay, get them in because they have a lot more experience and then possibly can give you a different perspective of what you have. And that will really help because it can actually stop or avoid getting into a problem. Trust, well, our clients put a lot of trust in us because buying or selling a house is one of the largest, or the largest investment people ever made. Okay, so they really depend on us to guide them. And trust is earned by being honest. Right? If I tell you the truth 10 times straight, will you believe me better? Yep. Right? So if I'm honest with you, you're most likely gonna extend that and sort of extend that trust to me. And that's how we should be with our clients. The worst thing we can do is make a mistake and try to hide it. Because stuff like that comes up sooner or later. And you're gonna lose that trust. You're gonna lose the trust from the agent that you're negotiating with, and that's how you easily lose trust with your own team. Equity. Opportunities for all. That's a new one, by the way. This one was recently added. Equity. And that came from making sure that the brokerage, okay, or in our business practices, that we are all inclusive and that we actually help and carry everyone. No one left behind. Okay. Success results through people. Success. How do you succeed through people? What would be an example of succeeding through people?
For example, you have a mentor, and when he teaches you the right things, you become So relatively, so your mentor teaches you or teaches you on how to conduct yourself, a strategy, then you succeed with that knowledge and then pass on to you. That's succeeded group of people.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, helping others and being in a way compensated, like the program that we have, right? Mentee, mentor, the PC program, but also success through people is that by treating everybody right, you earn the right to be treated correctly. And when you build a team, you help people get to a certain level in your business. And you succeed through your teammates and providing them the education and providing them leads or whatever it is that you do on your team or whatever assignments. So if we lead by this, if we actually transact with this in mind, there's no reason why we should have too many hiccups. Okay. How often does this happen? Do you make an offer, gets accepted, close? Not lately. At least in the market that was being, it's being back and forth. There's always counter offers, right? So remember I mentioned how to improve. What we can do is we can actually get pretty close. We just opened escrow with Patricia on one of her property, on one of her plants, and it was just one item that they countered us on. Why? Because we had done our homework. Part of the negotiation is the property had 3 offers and they selected ours. And the reason why they selected ours was because we called the agent and we asked, what's your plan on some terms? You know, what is your plan moving forward? Right? And they told us that they wanted 7 days inspection, they wanted this, wanted that. Okay, great. So we'll put that in the on the offer, speaking to our buyers, letting them know. And assuring them that we can get the inspection done. So we can get the inspection done within 7 days. So we just make sure that you can deliver, because that's another one, that's a trust factor right there, right? If you fail on that first step, well, they're gonna be a little more concerned about the next step. They're gonna be watching over you a little closer, and that's what creates tension, and that's what can create a fallout. And that's how escrows get canceled. So if you give them pretty much what they want, within reason, within you protecting your buyer, this is possible. Okay, but there's homework to be done. I get offers from people that have never talked to me, that they have not even, their buyer sold the property, they have not. And I get offers, copy me on DocuSign, so they don't even wrap it up, they just literally put me as receiving a copy when they do DocuSign. And a couple of times I have found them in my spam. Yeah, why will you do that? And believe it or not, it happens more often than you think. Okay, so no, what you want to do is you want to do an outline of the offer. You want, first of all, you tell them that your clients have seen the property. So that's the first question I'm going to ask from something like that. I usually remember the people that come to the open houses or people that see the property. If something like that shows up, I'd be like, oh, have your client seen the property? Have you seen the property? You start asking all those questions. But if you do what I mentioned before, which is you go see the property. And if you here locally, by the way, I highly recommend for you to, I do broker's tour with a purpose, and that is because I have a buyer for the property. Oh, I see a property that is listed by an agent that I want to get to know. And the way I do that is I go in, I make sure that they remember who I am. Okay, just in case I'm going to put an offer on the property. I get there, I make sure I get their attention, and I make sure that they remember me. And the best, let me tell you, you cannot fail with this, but you can say Congratulations on your listing. We got a big smile, we're very proud, right? And by the way, it's gonna be open this weekend. I have a buyer and I know two that might be interested in. And right there, I start. By the way, what kind of, are you looking for a quick escrow? Are you looking for extended escrow? Is your client gonna need a, right? How many people you think go with, and have that conversation? What I see most agents do is look at the brokers open, see who has empanadas or who has tacos, and that's how they select the property they're gonna go to. If you don't have a buyer and you have time to go to brokers open, by all means, right? You want to have fun and eat at the same time. But down the line, be more with purpose. And also, starting to build those brownie points with the agents, so they actually they know you. So, okay, so this is rare, but it happens, and you have control over making it happen. Why would an offer be rejected? Just flat out dies there. Has that ever happened to you? That people just reject your offer?
You're just way too off from what the seller wants. Because you haven't done, like you said, you haven't done the homework and you're just too far off from what they're expecting.
Right.
This is not feasible, you can't work with it.
Okay. What other reasons? This wasn't. No, that's for real. Like even in my 10 years career, 2 or 3 agents, I'm not gonna work that again. And that's why this business is so, there's so much to get. It's such a tight quarter, you never know when you're gonna run into people again. So play nice. That's what we have to do. We just have to play really nice. Well, in the market that we've been, most of the listings I gotten anywhere from 7 to 15, 20 offers. So when I put all those offers on a spreadsheet for my clients to review, and after reviewing the financials, after reviewing and verifying, pre-approving all that, then I make a recommendation of who should get a counterback. Of course, I always explain to the seller they're taking over right back. Right? It's their decision. But I'm the expert of the financial background. I can read the stuff and I can make a recommendation. So, and then send the first 3 pages of the agreement so they can actually look at the actual offer. So, here's what happens to the other 15 offers. They get a notification that out of the 15 offers, 4 would counter. So that's a rejection. But not going. And a lot of times because they're off the market, off the price, or the terms are not favorable. You'd be surprised how many people I tell them, this is what we're looking for. 10 days inspections, 14 days long, 14 days appraisal. No, blank. And what we want to do is be favorable to the listing agent by what? Making his job easier. Trust me, it is awesome. Awesome to get 15 offers. It's not awesome dealing with other paperwork and organizing it. And if you send a bunch of attachments and they say send one, you just make life more difficult. And if the seller says, I want to counter everybody. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, they can. Then you got to do it. So guess what happens if you didn't put the terms that I asked you to put on the offer? Now I have to counter each of those terms, and now I end up with 10, 12 items on the offer. You think I'm gonna like it? No. It's right. It's here's story. Unless you do, I got a counter offer not long ago. This guy did a generic one. They have stuff that I had already had in the contract, but because they did the same one, they didn't even put the name of my buyers. As the listing agent. They didn't even put the names of the buyer because guess what? They send the same thing to everybody. Okay. I know it's a lot of work, but that is what I like. And it's just, they use it for time. I literally have to do a text on DocuSign, I have to do like a text box, so I can write my client's name. Name on it, and no, it's. In this business, for you to last a long time and to create fans and a great following for down the road, is that just be thorough. Just do. Remember that this. Just follow that. Do the right thing. Treat people right. And your reward will come. Okay, so. Let's focus on the 4 that we're gonna count. Okay? So out of the 15 offers, let's say we're gonna counter 4. And now we have to go through the RPA or purchase agreement. And like I said yesterday, be careful with the little boxes. Okay? You put a box will be clicked on the wrong way, mistake of the buyer's agent. But that can actually have financial impact on your seller. Because the moment that offer is accepted, and you didn't see that the seller has to pay something that the buyer should be paying, you're on the hook. And you know how, especially with the new agreement, that is very easy to do. Very easy. So as a listing agent or as a buyer's agent, we as listing agents need to check, make sure that all the boxes are checked the right way. But you should also do that because again, when I'm reviewing that and I find a bunch of mistakes, guess what? My confidence in you is tanking, and that might be a decision of do I want to work with this person, right? So same thing like if you had disciplinary action. I mean, so that's why we have to follow the Keller Williams way, protect our reputation, protect our license, and protect the company because they come after the broker. So that's why Simon doesn't like you to make mistakes. What goes on the counter offer? Let's say you follow my instructions about terms, about in terms have to deal with along the escrows. Contingencies, which are what contingencies do we have?
The loan, inspections and inspections in the price.
Excellent. What else? Is actually negotiation for your disclosure. Because if I'm giving you a 7-day inspection period, should the owner still have their full term to give you their disclosures? Or to give you any kind of information that they have on the house? You can actually structure those too. Because normally like 7 days, well, I want to be informed. Because I want to see what they're going to say, because I want to use that for my inspector to go in there and focus maybe on something that they highlighted on the SPQ and all those disclosures, right? That is your fiduciary. That is protecting your client. That is having your client's interest first. That's how you do it. All right. So if you call me and ask me what I want, then contingencies and stuff like that shouldn't be on that counter, right? Because they're already on the agreement, you follow the instructions. Now, what else can be there? Oh, I'm sorry, not everybody. Anything. If you see in the patio furniture that you like, you can actually request that starting in the RPA as folder, or when you're going back and forth with pricing. And you're gonna respond to, let's say, a counter that I send you, you can actually add that, maybe offer a little more money, and you can now ask for, let's say, the plan, you like how it looks. So anything is negotiable, and like I said yesterday, the weirdest thing I done is sell a house with the dog. The dog was part of the negotiation. Because the seller was having a hard time, she was not going to have it. And the buyer wanted it, so. I mean, anything is possible, anything is possible. So on the counter offer, I'll tell you. I'm very standardized on how I do things. My counter offer to home buyer side is normally less than final price. Property sold as is. There will be no credits and no repair from the seller to the buyer. Okay. Why do I say that again? Because if you notice, the RPA already has that in it. It says every property is sold as is. Okay. So if you send me a request for repairs and the seller doesn't agree, there's one little box now, you said, look, seller's not getting it. Is that it? Does it die there? Do you buy back?
No, it's. Because if the seller is saying, no, it's gonna sell as is,
Okay,
and what the seller wants,
so everything is negotiable.
so you can negotiate.
Yeah, well, I have accepted the counter offers where they say, no credit, no repair, no nothing. I do my investigations. Okay? And if there's something, yeah, I'm not gonna tell them, well, there's a real, I mean, look, I need this repair, right? But if there's something significant,
Oh,
okay,
the plumbing or
you never know what you're gonna find in the inspections. The reason for the inspections. So, in a tough market like we've been, oh, any day I would have said no, or said no repair, no nothing, send it in. But then I go and do my investigations, and then I actually get figures. See, this is the problem. The reason why sometimes people have problem negotiating is because they get up. Let me see what's in there. Oh. This is. If you send people go, oh, $10,000 to repair. And they send the inspection, they send the permit, they send everything, right? All the inspections that they did. What you should do is, your systems now, they can actually give you an idea what the repairs will cost, to be able to justify. But it's so much easier just to put a round number. And send it in. To me, that's just. What I'm gonna say to that is, I'm sorry, what's the breakdown? So you get either a handyman, you get a trace person to go out there, they're like, well, we want 15,000 for the roof. I know. Right, so. By justifying it, by breaking it down and by getting an expert opinion, you're validating your cost. So you have a better chance. So I go back and I got credits. I got negotiated back. And let me tell you something. And I tell you a story of how people can actually do wrong. If you have a good report with the agent, if the agent likes you, you have a whole lot better chance of that agent negotiating for you what they're selling. Right? Trust me, that agent wants to meet you too. But a lot of times our approach. So, and it's not about what we ask you, it's how we ask you. How we say things has a lot more, effect than what we say. So. Very nice. Right, we play nice. And I don't mean to be fake. Develop an authentic self. Okay, the other people will actually like you. Will like your approach. People, I mean, people know, when, you know, they're doing something that is like. I have had people bring me flower, like an orchid, oh, I'm gonna be submitting an offer for mine. From other companies and from the company here, yeah, I'll bring you a cake. I'm on a diet, no, so authenticity is super important in negotiating. Make sure you're not just being mad because you want to get your way, you just nice, just be nice. That's that. So. This counter can have pretty much anything. Something else I put in there is that the, if I want to shorten even more the terms or the contingencies. That gets sent to you, and you have, how long do you have? For those of you guys in the school, how long do you have to respond? No need. It's really important to read it, because I only give you 24 hours per. Why? Because I already told my client, I'm listing your property on Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm gonna show it Saturday and Sunday, we're opening houses. The deadline for offers is Monday, we opening escrow Thursday or Friday. And I always keep my word. So, check what it says, because you can change that to 6 hours if you want to. Right? Because sometimes you know, you already have been having negotiations with conversations, and then just waiting for it to sign. And the reason why you don't want to wait that long is that these people have looked at other properties. These people have probably made offers on other properties. So there's a lot in play after you can lock it. Like it down. The faster you lock it down, the faster it's under the deposit, the better. So super important. You can allergy feel. It's just driving them out. So I'm having a hard time. So we go the first round, we negotiate. And let's say you agree with most of it, just one piece of the counter offer. You don't agree and you're gonna counter back. So this is the difference. And I learned this the hard way from the Ray Millman. Second transaction I was doing with them in my career. And I was negotiating a house in Gardena. Of course, I wanted to look good with my buyer, so they sent me a counter offer that if I agreed with that price, the property was ours. Me trying to squeeze a little bit in. I'm preparing the counter offer for $5,000 less than what he was asking. My client had said that she was okay with what they were saying. And I'm like, oh, and I take it to, because my office, my cubicle was at, well, one outside Ray Millen's yeah, office. So I walk in and I go, Brent, here's the counter. He goes, are you sure you want to do that? He just looks at me and goes, are you sure you want to do that? He goes, he had just got another offer. Oh, what you like? He goes, are you sure you want to do that? He goes, he wasn't telling me what it was, but he's like, yeah, look at that. I go, I'll be right back. I mean, it was very accurate, but I learned huge that don't play hero. Do your job the right way. If my client had already said she was fine with it. I always put the house in risk to try to play it. That, trust me, I just do right with my clients, but you don't go over promising, because that's another reason why we get in trouble. Okay, we over promise our buyers, and sometimes people over promise their sellers. That's what they take over prices. Gotta be, remember, honesty, that was one of the things, right? We have to be honest with people, it is what it is. And if you're gonna take a look at real estate, that's just gonna be the current side. And it's gonna be, you know, uncomfortable conversation later, how to get those price reductions. And you're doing absolutely a disservice to the seller. And we come from a market that it didn't really matter. But we go into a market that is going to definitely matter. Pricing ahead of the market is gonna, I hope there's some specific classes that I'm in, some specific classes that are done to make sure that we get some training on how to price ahead of the market. Okay? The pricing strategy that I shared with you guys in the last couple of days is what gives me that certainty that I'm gonna list the property, I'm gonna show it here and here, I'm gonna generate a certain number of offers, and we're gonna hope against it. And it's a weekend event, and it always, why? Because of how, I told the client what their price is. And then I put on my marketing strategy and what I've done for the past 6 years doing that. Now, this is the marketing. Always exceeds their expectations, and it's great. And then, you know, and then I don't have to go to 10 open houses in the same place. Okay? So it's in and out quick. So what I was saying is that make sure, okay, one, that you know your comps. If the house is priced correctly and your buyers are open to it, please go. Just sign it and black it out. Because, by the way, if you were to just counter back on the one little piece, that just opens it. Opens it back, even if it was a single, even if it wasn't a multiple offer. The negotiation starts all over again. And if they get any offers in, you better believe they're gonna go, especially the calculated terms. Or if it looks financially better, or if it's more reserved, or any given reason, you're putting your just about to be escrow in there. So, and the other thing I tell my clients is this. And we're moving into the market too, we're not gonna be asking for real appraisals. Hardly anybody's asking for real appraisals anymore. Okay, but 2.5 months ago, everybody wanted to have a appraisal with, that was one of my lines. So, you know, buyer to real appraisal. Yeah, and then, you can tell your buyer that even if you go into escrow a little higher, that the appraisal will correct. If it comes short, that we're gonna negotiate it or compromise. The idea is that we're gonna try to negotiate back to what the actual price is. And let me tell you something. If it's the only offer that the seller has, it's like a bait. Okay? They just take care of it, it's the only thing that they have. But if you're facing multiple offers, it's like, I have a backup, a first backup, a second backup, and there were 4, right? Everybody gets an offer for backup. And it's, by the way, you can do that with one piece of paper. And you can put first position, second position, to always be straight shooter for that, in what position they are. The chance are, even if they're on second position, the person that was second to getting this property probably made all of their offers, and they're the ones that are most likely to go into escrow. So nothing wrong with being a second, I think, taking third positions, right? And it's totally okay to do it. So the thing we learn here is this: make sure you know your comps. Make sure, by the way, the more confident you come across with your buyer or seller, I don't mean make up stuff and be confident. I mean, just be confident in what your abilities are and what you can accomplish. Because that right there establishes trust. Because this is the one thing with a lot of my clients is that Aaron, practically do what you want. That's like, you, I mean, you have to share it, that, and you have now more responsibility, because now you have to keep that trust, right? So just because they extend their trust, that doesn't mean it's an automatic thing, now you just maintain. It's just like with anybody I meet, okay, I extend my trust. All you have to do is keep it.
Yeah, it's like a relationship,
Mhm.
then keep that trust,
Right,
and with your clients, it's sure to keep that relationship.
you can't be wishy-washy, I mean, you can have be wishy-washy with this kind of stuff, you know, one day you say one thing, the next day you say another. If you have conversations, please follow up with an email, follow up with a text, something to say you had that conversation. And if possible, put it in writing.
Document them.
Yep. Before, we used to have, I haven't heard this term, but I actually, it's a practice that I have adopted for, since I can remember, is like, I have a daily log, I have a daily to kind of like a to-do, sometimes it's one page, sometimes 2 pages, but I actually, I write down my conversations. You know, under that date, I put the main things that I'm gonna do, and then under that, somebody called me. I told somebody, all right, why? It's still a conversation log. That has saved me. Okay, because I think I keep track of that. And if let's say there was a lawsuit or anything like that, it will ask you for your conversation lines. I mean, text took a lot of that, emails took a lot of that, but in the old day, well, not that I have experience, but I know some older realtors. And they actually was a log that you have to each file. On the left side of the file, you will have the date and then the conversation that you have had with that client. And that was how you recorded, and that's how you protected and defended yourself. Okay, now we have technology, right? But still, when you negotiate something when you buy or sell, or they tell you to do something verbally, please send them a text. Just to make sure I understand. Right? This is what we agree. Boom. Prefer the email. Text is valid now anyway. But do that, because if you do what you guys discussed, and all the time something goes wrong, let me tell you, everything else goes wrong. Oh, thank you. So those are just, even, because everything, remember, we always negotiate, right? You call, you know, somebody wants to sell the property. Well, I'm kind of busy, okay, you can do this all the time. That's another. I mean, you're negotiating for the time, everything, yes. All right. And this is the part that I mentioned that's really critical. How about if you're the listing agent and you also get the buyer? So, Aaron, my buyer only wants to offer this. Well, I mean, it's tricky because now you're negotiating against yourself. Integrity, ethics are very easily compromised when you negotiate with yourself, and that is why if you don't have the discipline, okay, if you don't have the discipline to do it correctly, please don't double end deals. Because here in California, I'm trying to do away with it, and then trying to do away for a while. And I think sooner or later they're gonna do it. It's one of the very few states that still allows you to do double end deal. There was this one agent that I helped. She lived there, right? She had lived in her own house. And she was offering $2,000 to the buyer side. The house was $850,000. First of all, will you give your buyer? Will you get $2,000 for your buyer of $800? Not at all, right? So the chances were that the only way she was gonna sell the property if she also got the buyer. So I finally convinced her that she should pay at least 2%. No problem. She had just left Keller Williams, had gone with some other brokers. And she goes, well, my broker told me that I could do that. I said, well, she hadn't done a lot of transactions, so I think she mainly can get the license to sort of sell her own house and not pay. I said, you aligning yourself to a serious situation. I said, you're not just gonna be the agent, you're gonna be the owner. I said, and you're gonna be representing the buyer. Because I said, I don't see somebody bringing you, their buyer, to get you $50,000. Okay, so finally changed it to 2%. I went and did an open house, so I do an open house. And we actually sold. We got a lot of people coming. And out of that open house, I tracked it, got about $7 million. Even I just sold a property in Long Beach that I originated from that about 4 years ago. It's crazy. So, yeah, it was a great result for me. But what I'm saying is, how do you manage to do sure when you own both sides? So you have to be even more, extra transparent to both sides. Because I mentioned when I have open houses on the properties, and yeah, they're do the intelligent pricing marketing technique, and the property we closed on one yesterday in Compton. That I took the listing for $725, put it on the market for $588, sold it for $740. 1 week, day 24 days. Now, the clients, you need to be able to explain that.
Did you say you put it on the market for 578?
I'm sorry, 688.
Okay,
Okay.
Oh.
No, I did 60. So you have to like be very sure of the okay, but that's what I've been doing for the past 6 years. We have never done. So often when by the way, this is not something I came up with. If you do a CMA, it's called intelligent pricing. It's part of your CMA with the board, and it tells you that if you price a property this at the market, 60% of people are gonna see it. If you overprice it, 45%. But if you underprice it by 3 or 5%, 75 class see the property. So it's only 3 to 5%. Well, one is what can you get your client on board, and what you can deliver on. That's super important. Okay, so what I say is, the working stage they make. So we price the property. If you underprice it, the market corrects it. The competition corrects it. I have a line of people pull out outside. Pull out. And we got $50,000 more than the plan. Like we're talking about in our practice. We listed 725, 740 was. So at those open houses, often they expect investors come and say, it's another pay for the corner of the house. And like, good deal on this house. You can represent it. I mean, they're not being pretty open, but what they're looking for is for you to figure out a way that he gets the property. And nothing is worth your reputation, your license. And well, the means of feeding yourself with your family. Because that really that's very valuable. And I always make sure to let anybody like that know that I have no problem representing. You don't want to represent. But the only advantage that they will have was not have to fiduciary to them is they will be able to know what it would take to do it, to beat the best offer. Am I giving my fiduciary to myself? Absolutely, right? My job for them is to get them the best price possible with the best terms. So. Let me tell you, a lot of them don't, a lot of them don't wanna make that one. But what they're looking for is for you to like, and trust me, it happens. And that is what, people get fined, people lose their license, or fraud.
So, quick question, so as us, as an investor, so we don't really, we will not be, it's not in our best, that is not in our best, it's not in our best advantage to be working with an investor most of the time.
No, I mean, I have investors that I work with, but what I'm saying is, if you have a listing and the investor comes to you and said, help me get this house, finance the deal, I mean, they don't have the guts to tell you straight out, right? Throw away the other offers, percent mine. And so that's the part that you need to let clear. All offers 10%. The only advantage when I'm working with you is that even though with the highest one is, you have to live on what to do to it. That's it. Oh, but of course, if they represent the normal way, you go for the inspections, okay? But they don't get any different treatment than the other 10 offers we get. By saying, no termites, I'm still keeping my seller code. Just when I say that's gonna match, so I'm still gonna negotiate. And keep it to where, and they can walk away at any time. Right? I mean, and that's what it's tricky. I truly believe, and this is just my opinion, Simon, it's my opinion that if you're the listing side and you get the buyer, you probably still do more for the listing.
It was compromise.
Right, and that's the word I was gonna use. But yeah, you're more biased with the person which you have actually have a relationship with, of course. Okay, so just that in itself, it compromises fiduciary to that offer.
Yeah, because he trusted you.
Right.
Yeah.
So just be really careful with doing two-sided deals. So now, the property I disclosed, an agent from the office here is what was the winning offer. Okay, that's another thing we have to be careful. That's dual agency. If the same broker is involved, it's still dual agency. So it doesn't matter that you're not representing the buyer. If an agent here is representing the buyer, it's dual agency. So now you still have to be very careful not to be playing favors. Just because it's an agent. Okay? So it's a balancing act. And by the way, one thing I always do is, I always let the broker know. One, I want to know what the broker said about how you handle your business. Because I want to know who I'm in business. So it's just because you play and we talk here, that doesn't mean you know our business or how we do business. Right? You like to know.
Yeah, if it's, my question is it still dual agency if it's, one person from this Keller Williams and then another, if the other agents from a different Keller Williams?
Okay, each Keller Williams is run independently,
Right.
and they have their own broker.
So it's not a Williams.
Correct. But there are offices that have one broker for like $5. So it could be,
Okay,
so we have to be careful with that.
all right, but no Keller Williams is like, all right, each individual office is independently run everything.
I know, no, actually, this one has, the one in
Okay.
no, it's the one in Western. I think, Simon is a broker to both.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're doing business with that, that changes, by the way, so.
That's why it's good to talk to the broker,
Correct.
Sure, okay.
just to make sure. Where's that?
It's on Western and Costa Capita. That's the Harbor Gateway, Harbor City office. LA Harbor, thank you, LA Harbor, that's the right name. So if you do business with that office, you might be doing business with the same broker and it's dual agent. Okay,
Under the same owner of the same broker on both of the branches.
okay, so yeah, the same one, like,
Man,
yes, many of the OP operating manager of the offices. There's a group that owns several offices. Each region is owned by the same owner. Now, it could be the same ownership, but they have separate brokers. That's the difference. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if you ever get in that situation that you're dealing with the same, especially here close by, then always ask. Simon, that would be to say that. Don't worry too much about it. It doesn't happen that often. But if it does, just communicate. Remember, everything starts with communication. All right. So we cover that. The 3 Ps. The 3P approach. Prepare, present, position. Remember? What we're doing is we're moving the parties to an agreement. And that starts with the price. That happens through the escrow process, through the repair request. I mean, there are repairs that are required by law to be done, right? Like the smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, the water heater being strapped. Those are responsibilities of itself. So that's why it's important to say that there's not going to be repairs, and sometimes I actually could, unless required by law, which is mandatory. Those are non-negotiable. If they don't do those things, the appraiser is going to walk away. Appraiser is going to walk away. So preparation is the key to building confidence and ensuring a smooth negotiation process. Prepare. If you know what you're talking about, you're going to be able to speak with confidence. Okay? But when people are not sure what they're talking about, they start sweating. It was really funny. When I first got into real estate, I got my license, and a week later, I got lucky and I got a referral. Was listed. And my mentor goes with me to the listing appointment because I had no idea. Okay, so we get there, and this guy just literally sweating. The mentor, he started like I'm not kidding. I mean, like he had to stay out of the sauna. He just turned around, and I was like, oh, wow. I was really nervous because there's somebody I knew. Wow. And he was like, silence. But so then, ooh, I like checks. Yes. By the way, if you guys are using escrow elsewhere, give Maria a try. She is awesome. Maria, thank you. Awesome straws. Okay. And I'm very honest, and I always think what they are, and I was having a very difficult time with the previous person. Everybody loves her. My clients are like, oh my gosh, she was so sweet, she was so nice, and when she calls, she's always very polite. When I go ask her a question, she takes the time to do it. And I think we should be supporting Sorry. We should be supporting, our vendors. Here, besides that is a profit center support, for the office. Right? So why we go and give money else? I have companies that, that call me and they're offering to play golf. That's an ethical language. They should do that. Or some companies are operating kickbacks. Be careful with that. That goes to integrity, honesty, or mumbo jumbo. There's not one thing, it's another. Anyway, so if we know what we're talking about, if we're familiar with presentation, if we're familiar with let's say the inspection report, we're going to be able to present it in a manner that is convincing. And also, we show that we know what we're talking about. If you're confident, I can guarantee you that when you say things, people are not going to question. Oh, thank you so much. If you're not comfortable or confident about what you're talking about, they're going to tear you apart. Why? Because if you don't explain one thing clearly, the questioning starts. And now you're being interrogated about what you present. And that's how you start sweating. Okay, because now you're like, oh my gosh. And so familiarize yourself with the contracts, familiarize yourself with the forms, making sure that you're that when you submit something, have your mentor take a look at it. If the mentor is not around, have the broker take a look at it. Just ensure it's done correctly the first time. Because there's nothing worse than you send something to the client and the client catches a mistake. Oh. What do you think you're gonna do with the rest of the forms that you send? Now they start reading everything. Then you better know your contract, because you're gonna start answering a lot more questions than you would have if you would have done it right the first time. They lose confidence in you, and now they question everything. So you don't have a second chance, by the way. All it takes is one time to lose confidence, just like to lose respect for someone, right? You can be correct, you can be proper, but you lose it in problem. It coming from I used to manage 19 branches for Comerica. And how it was like having 19 dysfunctional families, right, or different teams. Everybody had its own personality, and I keep telling them out of it, especially when they're in. It only takes one time for you to lose it in front of your staff. For them to lose respect for you. You can do everything else right. Just that one time. So if you feel you're gonna lose it, go, get off. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's gonna haunt you the rest of your stay in that office.
What happened to your mentor? So you didn't know what he was doing when you arrived to the house?
Well, I mean, he had been doing this for a while. He's the one that actually got me to get my license. He said that I would probably do well on this. He's the one that convinced me. He was, as a matter of fact, my first sales meeting that I went to when I didn't have a license was Prudential back in the day. That became Berkshire. So he went to Keller Williams, so here I go, and I got my license. And it was just the oddest thing. I mean, this was a guy who just, he talked way too much. But sometimes when you talk too much, it's a lot harder when people start asking you questions, right? If you don't, like I said before, if you don't present that, when I say things that you guys end up with questions, if I don't say something clear or correct, you guys have more questions for me, right? But if you present it from the very beginning, or you talk to your buyer or seller from the very beginning, clearly. Oh, this guy. But if you're like, well, I'm not sure about that. So now they know that you don't know. And they're gonna question it even more. And that can cost you the time. Why? It's, first-time home buyers, are more so because they're so scared. So you need to make sure you communicate clearly, like by preparing yourself. Then the second P, which is present, you're gonna present the information that you prepare for and deliver it clearly. Easy to understand, yeah.
So my question is that let's say for home, so we new agents and we don't know all everything. So let's say, for example, we talk to a client and we maybe presented, we have, they ask us some questions that we don't know exactly. And how can we professionally answer that question without knowing? Should we do so? I don't have the answer for you right now, but let me go, I will get back to you and let me get the answer for that. You know, so how do you phrase that?
Let me know.
You know what I mean?
Just like you did, don't directly do somebody else's work, so they're not gonna come. Right,
And you don't wanna say the wrong.
correct. So one of the things I mean, I still do this. Okay, one thing I tell my clients, I set that up from the very beginning. I tell them, I said, well, you know, I pretty much have a lot of information. If there's something that you need to know or you ask me, I'm gonna write it down and get back to you. Deal with it. I just dealt with it up front. So she knows that, he knows that I'm gonna be writing some of the questions that they might have that I might not know. Because I'm never gonna take the chance of saying something halfway. Other expression, ready? But of saying it wrong.
So it's always best to let them know from the beginning.
Yeah, just say that. Remember, you have to always, by the way, always have your notepad. Or your, whatever you do to go, just have it with a pen. The last thing you want to do is, I would like to write it down, but you know, or you just have it, or you phone me. Sometimes I just write, you know, on my phone or, but just tell them. If there's something that I don't, that I cannot respond to, see, I can word it to the opportunity. If there's something I don't know, but you know it. So it's more like, if there's something that I can respond to, I'm gonna write it down and get back to you right away. Just like that.
And do it.
Yeah.
Follow through.
Yeah, that's super important. Good.
Do it now.
Okay, so then the third P is position. Okay, so if you make this a smooth process, the closing. I mean, look, there's transactions that are so easy. And I mean that. There's no mood. How you set the mood. Right? I mean, if we meet in the hallway and the first thing we do is run into each other and give each other dirty looks. How do you think the rest of that will go? Every time you see me, it's not gonna like me, right? But man, if I like, yesterday, you know, yesterday was your first class and it was your second day with the company here and we met and we like, I mean, I want you to succeed. If we get in a transaction, how do you think that transaction is gonna go? Why? Because we're both gonna want to guide our clients to a close. There's no difference if you call an agent to show a property and you ask them questions, but they already gave you the answer. Right? To be like, oh my God, I mean, that's a very, really? I mean, it depends, okay? I try to be as nice as possible, but sometimes when people call me with flat out questions that like, it's very like clearly, I said, per the MLS remarks. Per the MLS remarks. So, what is that? Okay, and then you grew up like that and go read the, and by the way, there are people that will tell you, read the MLS. Ouch. Right? Imagine that person, now you're gonna be an office. You just got your passes. That's why I always say the courting will start at the broker's open, It starts at the open house, it starts when you make the appointment. And that's why we always have to be nice, respectful. Let's recognize their accomplishment. There's a lot of ego. Ego is the thing that actually ruins things. Okay, because sometimes it's just, believe they're so much superior to everybody else. And when you call it their opinion, the way they act. Okay, at times. Now, sure, that ego, and let's say, hey, man, I see you everywhere. I see your signs everywhere. You went through a lot of this. Congratulations. By the way, I'm talking about this property. I mean, I've learned to identify some. Right? Why? They earn, I mean, you know, way they earn it, they don't have to be that way. I mean, but there's some characters in the South Bay that are very successful. And, you know, they have a little bit of an ego, something you have to recognize. Going back to them. They love that. I mean, give somebody a compliment and it's automatically you break their barrier or whatever. And that's why when you go to the broker's open or you go to see the property and sometimes the agent, the listing agent has to be there. Don't just, you know, you just walking. I've seen people that you go open the doors for them. Man, you don't even say hi to you. They're just walking with their clients and look at the property. I mean, to me, nice, it's so rude. So how about you get there and you just talk to the agent for a little bit, introduce them your clients. Right? Tell them about your client. By the way, this guy's, I'm very well qualified. The lyrics gonna have your credit score, they're way out there. And by the way, nice listing, congratulations. Big smile. You think he's gonna remember that? So this is the thing, people will remember that. But they will also remember that you just walk in and say, hi, how rude. Nothing in between, they don't remember. They only remember the bad and the really good. Choose which one is better for you. And I recommend to just be very nice, polite, and recognize their accomplishment. Now, all this stuff is not in there, but I'm just telling you that for you to succeed in this business, and the most effective thing that I found out is that sugar, sweetness gets you a lot more than the, which, you know, if you're in the bad mood, just don't negotiate that moment. Go for a walk. Okay, and the problem is that sometimes people get us in the middle of like, hey, a little chaotic, or pick up the phone and they ask the question. Oh, if you haven't shift, this will go right to that line, and the other person don't do it. Whatever it is, so it's so sweet. So you have to be consistent. There's nothing that has worked best than having that consistency and not have those moments of like, even when the other side makes a mistake, just add yourself. This is the thing that I do that I was going to share. That was really funny. So I'm in escrow, city, and the agent was running like with the inspections of the like. I'm usually like easy, you know. It's like you just follow you have a comment, so you just follow. But because I understood, I had asked for 10 days, an inspection. They didn't do 7 days. Okay, well, they did. So they were already late. And she called me and says, it's not going to be on time. Please don't send me another form, I can get it done. I said, okay, I thought let me talk to the seller. Okay, you should have told me after 10 days. So I tell you, it's fine, there you go. They got it to me in 3 days, fine. My seller had an issue about signing the documents here that I actually created a delay for 1 day. Notice the point. Back to me. After my seller had forgiven them, just because my seller, she was in San Diego, so she was coming too late, we had to go the next day. This person overnight sent me a notice. Okay. And so that's the stream. This lab check that they just gave me, I guess for that, so it closed yesterday. This agent was like behind, like 3 days. And he said they're calling me, they called the broker, and you know, oh, don't tell somebody to be so straight that what have you. So the broker comes and says, don't send them a notice. Okay. All I needed to know is that my client understood, apparently the buyers were getting married that weekend. And that was not my way. Communication, right? Right, I mean, absolutely, I just told him, I just said, what I simply say, when I go into contract with you, I just said, this is what we agreed, right? Okay, we're gonna follow the contract, I said, I don't have to do it. But communication is super important. So what I'm saying is, if you're nice, guess what you're gonna get? You're gonna get nice stuff. If you start throwing punches in negotiation, people don't usually go like this. They respond. And that's what we have to guard against, just stick to the contract, do the best for your clients, but flexibility is super important. And again, communicate with your mentor, communicate with the broker. Okay, when you're in a team, communicate with the team. That's the most important. But then again, I go back to this one like saying, play nice. Just play nice. It's so good. Right. Cover a lot of that. Ask useful questions. Just like everything else, just like qualifying a buyer, just like qualifying a seller. If you don't ask the right question, you're gonna be driving people around that you shouldn't be driving around. You're gonna be wasting time. So same thing, if you're in negotiation, okay, don't make it about you, make it about the issue. When you're asking for somebody to, oh, by the way, I'm doing the night. Chris saw my PC is talking about like the day of in the morning. Oh, this is due. This is just communicate. If you don't do it yourself, do it through your admin, do it through your transaction coordinator. Okay. Know your audience. I'm implementing some new system in my business. I'm revamping everything this September. And one of the things that I'm doing is I'm actually doing video. I'm implementing video, text, video, everything. And also I'm interviewing other local businesses. We started with the Florence Chamber of Commerce, and that's a new way of marketing that I'm doing. One thing I learned really quick is that an interview that you last 6 minutes can go for half an hour if you don't ask the right question, if you don't know your audience. There was one, the first question, this lady went on for 6 minutes. And I wanted to be around. So you have to be really to know when to ask an answer close question and open end question, right? You want a yes or no? Like an open house. Hey, do you have an agent? Yes. People would take you give them an out by doing that. But if you say, hey, nice to meet you. What's the name of your agent? Well, what happens to the majority of people cannot make stuff up. quick enough. Just like, they're not telling you the truth. Okay, and if they say, well, what was something, I don't even know their name, oh, still a chance. But that's one way of getting information to people. Is a yes or, if you go yes or no, yourselves, something is necessary. Okay, but mostly you want to do open, right? What have we learned?
Structure your questions on how you act, how you deliver it to to a person that you're trying to get. So this is from, like you were saying about the interview part, you have to be prepared. Now, when you prepare, you know that, okay, instead of asking this question at the end, I'm asking that question at the beginning. So I get the answer, and toward the end, I might ask this question that's more broader, so they can take more time. We save the time and get the true information that we need.
Okay.
That's one thing that is,
What else?
Always read the MLS.
That's the one thing you take today. Trust me, you're gonna say that out of embarrassment. And it's gonna increase the chances of, the other side like you.
And always follow.
No, in another way. If it's something written on the remarks or instructions, and you don't understand it. Don't call and say, by the way, what are you showing instructions? Are they gonna say, read the MLS? What you say is, by the way, I was looking at the instruction that I didn't quite understand. Can you help me with that?
Yeah, that kind of.
Right, that's a little better because they know that you went and looked at it.
And you read it,
Right.
you're not quite understanding it. But you read it.
Yeah. It goes better. I mean, sometimes people write your stuff in there.
Yeah.
That you might know what it is. What else?
like she would piggyback what she said, follow up with text message after you had a conversation with somebody.
Document.
And like verbal conversation, you want to document it, the form of words to document it, like, oh, just to confirm of what we had, the conversation, we said we want this, or this, well, you want to emphasize it and also have a document receipt.
Just to confirm what we're reading. Outline. Doesn't have to be a love story, doesn't have to be a long story, just outline. Okay. And by the way, when I never had the experience and expect never to have it, I hope, is to when something goes wrong in a lawsuit and stuff like that. The more stuff you put in the document, the more you write, the more they have to take apart. So be precise, be clear. Don't people can sometimes put like a whole story behind something that could, on something that could be one sentence, right? Or an outline at least. It's clear. There's no confusion. You can confuse people by putting too much. So just make sure you're precise, but you don't have to be so specific.
Are you talking about like with offers and things like that, or other things as well?
Well, I'm talking with even your conversation log, stuff you write in. When you do a text, okay, you don't have to really go like remember all the conversation and write an entire conversation in there. If you talk for 5 minutes and the only thing you did was to agree that they're going to, let's say, give up, well, that's actually a document, but let's say agree that the property going to be shown or they're going to have an open house. Okay, and then you show up in the progress not ready. So what you want to do is then send an email or a text saying, okay, so open house is Saturday from this to this. Does have to be. Since we talked, and remember I told you the reason why I wanted to do the open house this weekend because the other weekend I cannot do it. So if this weekend, okay, you don't need all that. What you need to say is, we agree that the open house is here. Okay, and you should put the house between. No.
Darren, I think also, as I say, you touched on a good point with, in terms of requests for repairs too. So this is another way, I think you can show the other agent that you're respectful and be nice. And like you said, it's all about how you present things. So with request for repair, even, you know, somebody, if you have the same, just like Aaron does, that puts sold as it is. So when you present your request for repair, I think also if you guide your client, it's about communication, you guide them to being reasonable with the request for repair also too, that will come across to the listing agent, and they're more likely to also work with you. So that the way that you can show that you're working, you want to communicate with your client, not to put everything that's on the inspection report. You want to be guided to be selective with it put on it. And like the listing agent, know, we were very selective with what we put on there. And that's why you justify everything. So that's a good way to communicate well with those agents.
Yeah, and that happens during the buyers. You buyer presentation. You have to indoctrinate your buyers. The contract said. The town is being told as is. The reason for the inspection is for what? To find how many little nail holes around the wall? No, they're to find specific. Old serious issues with the property. And we're talking about plumbing, foundation, roof leaks.
Hazards.
Yeah. That is the purpose, and the sooner your buyer understands that, the easier it's gonna be for you to negotiate for them. Because their buyers are one, I'm sorry, I don't like that wall, where can they paint it a different color? No, that's what you do, that's what you do when you know. But, so you have to set right expectations, okay? And please do not be afraid of your clients. I see people that be so concerned about it, that they don't, and I know maybe it's the only one you have, but sometimes they don't address things and they don't put things in perspective because they're afraid that their clients are gonna, get upset. No. You say it, it's how you say it. But if you don't set expectations, then you're gonna end up doing a lot of drawings, you're doing a lot of writing. It's like when I tell people, so we're gonna send this houses, we're gonna rate them from 1 to 10, and by the way, there's no 10s. Unless you build a custom home, you're gonna get everything you want. But if here, there's not gonna be 10s. Okay? Anything under 6, out. Anything between 7 and 9, we're gonna have to come back to it and consider it, and possibly make an offer. If you set this expectation, now you're boxing in a way that easier to guide them to make a decision. And if you try to, by the way, my suggestion is, I want you to go more than 5 or 6 homes in one tour. Because the whole becomes at the end. Okay, but also, I like to use the concierge side of the MLS, because that gives me control about looking at property prior to them seeing it. Because you don't want to send them a bunch of stuff that is not what they tell you that they want. They told you what during the buyer presentation, they told you what they wanted. Okay, because if you end up selling a property that doesn't need that, guess what? If they don't have anything else to do that with, they don't want to see those too. And that is just driving around for nothing, because you know they're not going to buy that. And if they start sending me properties, I know it's not part of this, but if they start sending you properties and they're like, not matching what you told me. Before you start showing them 10 properties that are not what they're going to buy, you have to bring them in or set up a time to talk and ask. Has your requirements changed? Because, we see property that doesn't match what we originally talked about. And we look at something different because that way I can send you properties to match that. So you have to bring them in. If you're showing a lot of property, you've done a lot of showings and they're not able to make a decision just because they're still all over the place and they haven't focused. So it's your job to guide them. All right. Be professional. Keep your goal in mind. So these are all the things that we actually have a talk about. Okay. And I summarize, and that's what I like the Keller Williams way. If we do all those things, honesty, integrity, right? everything else just comes in, everything else just flows. Because if you're being that way, it's very hard for somebody like unprovoked. I mean, if I'm not provoking you, I mean, it's automatically that there's no reason why the other person, won't, right? Man, I'd be walking or something, and some of those serious, but normally it doesn't work that way. If you're polite, if you're respectful, if you understand things and you understand issues, not personal matters. The other person's gonna respond the same way. Just like if you do something wrong, the person's gonna respond wrong. And that's how it all goes to the wrong way.
What does number 16 don't be attached to the outcome?
Okay. Don't be attached to the outcome is that if sometimes we have in mind what we want. But that's just what we want. But we're dealing with two parties. Literally four, yes, trust me. The agents have their own personality or their own thing that they like to win. They like to, right? So sometimes it might look like you're losing to get what you want and to get the clients to the closing. So don't be attached to you always have to be right or you always have to win. Okay? The idea here is to navigate the situation to get to the goal. And the goal is closing. We're in the business of closing. And then the business of negotiating, I mean, always part of it, right? But it doesn't stop at being great negotiator if you don't close. If you win all the time, probably you're not gonna close. Right? So it has to be a win-win. So not being attached to the outcome is that, like, some people say, let's say we're gonna go, 5 people are choosing to go to dinner. You just wanna go, you don't care where they go. You're not attached if it's gonna be Thai or if it's gonna be Italian, right? So you set yourself a failure when you have those expectations that are not in your full control. Because that's what happens most of the time, right? The only thing we have control over is what we do, how we do it, what we say. But I mean, what anybody else does is their own. This right here. It's interesting that not a lot of this gets mentioned anymore. In the beginning of your career, if you're not doing at least this, it's going to take you a lot longer to get in business. Okay? The only job you have right now besides learning, but your number one job is lead generation. The only job is to go get a client, go get a buyer or seller. That's it. And then you just pull your network. Right? That's what they're for. You don't have to go anywhere and get into conversations about contracts. One, because you don't know yet. But you can talk about, identify, are you buying or selling or, you can identify that. And then you bring it in. And then we all help. So this is important. Actually, I was just talking to Tyler in the office. I've been chasing some people for a while, calling them, emailing them. I started stalking them on social media. They respond. One actually called me yesterday because I sent them a quick message. Hey, what time? So social media is another way of contacting somebody. Okay, because it comment on their stuff. My business page posts practically every day, or the social channels post every day, and some of it is generic. But it's amazing when I don't like I said yesterday, I don't like putting personal stuff on the internet. And my wife has put some stuff lately, and it's like it's weird for me because I don't like to do this. But it's amazing how much people comment on those. right? Because it's more personal. So when people put their photos, like on vacation somewhere, or just, oh my God, that's you. Ask a question. Okay, a lot of people look at the comments, ask a question, where is that? And that's the way to establish a conversation. Oh my gosh, what are you doing for such amazing vacations? What are you saying? I want to tell you why. Okay, so what? Because it's very natural. If they do what they do, they're gonna have to, and what do you do? Right? So, just little things to do. Right, but please, make calls. And like I told you, if you're in line somewhere, people who you talk to. Always when you like, your business partner with you, so you can go and pass it on. And the other tip that I want you guys to remember is that if you have people that are gonna refer your business, train them how you want them to refer your business. Okay, so because we're very good about, by the way, thank you for closing our transaction. We need your 25 for give your friends. No. Right. No, one of the things actually I put up to you, because you this, toolbox, like moving, and then put up here. And what I tell them is, by the way, if you have anybody in the city, I'm very appreciative of the referral, but don't just give them a business. Get permission from them when you call them. And you can be there now. Because you better believe I'm gonna call them. You know how many people told me they gave up this start or something? You know how many people call them? So what? But they don't call.
You said you gave it to a business card?
Then I train them to get their information and get permission for me to get it and call them. Because otherwise, you're not going to call. Yeah. That's what you use. Yeah. So somebody said, oh my God, I heard this person wants to sell. Oh, that's great. Well, here's my information, but do me a favor. Give me their numbers and let them know that I'm not doing it. That way, and you better call.
Yeah, because you can depend on it.
Right, so, that's just another way that it's just little, little hacks, because we're so used to that. Oh my God, you hear somebody saying, oh, my neighbor's sleeping outside. Oh, you're in my car. And then that's the house went up was up. Everybody, right? But you only have it, if you have a chance, remember, you only have control over when you do, so it goes back to that. Okay, so. No. This is really important, okay? Engage in every conversation in the spirit of contribution and people are happy to be in relationship with them. What a concept. Okay, I think this is the very end, and what we're gonna do is now, if you guys have any questions. Online too, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Oh. Question, comments? You want me to stop talking? Okay, no.
Could you finish that phrase or that sentence where you said, there's something I cannot respond to?
Yeah.
What was that?
So when I'm introducing myself, or I'm introducing the materials I'm gonna cover, I let the homeowner or the buyer know that we're gonna go over some of my marketing materials, and we're gonna go over some of the comments or whatever. And then I said, if there is something that I don't have the answer for, I'm gonna write it down and get right back to you. Or if there is something that I can't explain today, I'm gonna get right back. It's just whatever word is more natural. It used to be very, the delivery of it is really important. But what you say is, there's gonna be stuff here that I'm not gonna be able to answer, right? And it's gonna be worse if you're already in the middle of the conversation and they ask you something and go, I don't know that.
So it's good to establish that.
Right. And it's like, oh, that's gonna be the first thing I'm gonna get back to you. A little more nonchalant instead of like being, oh, because when they think it was a curve, or those screwballs that they throw at you with questions, and you're not sure about the answer, I can tell you. You start saying, you start explaining halfway, or not explaining, or saying stuff that you're not 100% sure, or especially. And if that happens to you, you know, the seller or the buyer will notice, and when they do at that point is trust.
Yeah,
That's compromise.
yeah.
Because like, can I trust this person to deal with the largest investment I've ever made? That's what it is. You have to look at it from that perspective. You're asking people to trust you when you don't know what you're doing with your largest investment. So, anyway. And by the way, you better not be in front of your client when you're saying this for the first time. What I mean by that is, don't practice with your clients. That is very expensive. A lot of people practice with their clients. No. You find somebody that's willing to listen to you and do the presentation. Deliver that line that you just do. Deliver it, so it's not coming out of your mouth for the first time when you have a seller in front of you. Okay? Practice just, you know. You know, I would be pretty cool, because I don't like scripts, but I read every script there is. Okay? Because I take a little bit of each for my own, it make it my own. Okay? So practice your scripts, practice, and you need to at least know what there should be said. In what order or how you say it, that's your own arrangement, and that's what makes you authentic, and that's what makes it natural, and that's what sells. Yeah, it's crucial, it's crucial, super important. So there's all, I mean, there's so much information that you can get from to do that. So if you're not prospecting, you practice it. And if you have a decent presentation, please from like 5 minutes before the meeting, you're gonna print it out and run with it. No, have it. Study it. Another email sentence. I actually used to record myself. I used to look in front of the mirror. And I used to record myself doing my presentation. Not very hard on myself in regards to what I told myself to do. Let me tell you, you can see then how bad you are and how much you need to practice. Okay, don't wait for somebody to tell you your presentation was so bad. I'm not doing this again. I think you know. Whenever we do stuff that we're not 100% sure, your closing ratio is gonna, your conversion suffers significantly. So there's two things, right? When you go in and you don't get the business, those are the best learning experiences in this business. And please, don't just be disappointed that you're gonna get the business. Use that experience and come back and start mapping it out. What did I do? How did I break it down? Okay. And figure out what was the high of that presentation, what was the low of that presentation, and then practice again. Okay. That, I mean, that's, you can be brand new. But let me tell you something. If you know what you're talking about, and you know how you're gonna market that property, and you know how the process, learn the process, even if you haven't done it. Right? And how you deliver that to a buyer or seller, there's not very different between them on the business. They interview you. You think you're interviewing them? You think that you think, no, it's the other way around. They interviewing you for the job. I mean, and what do you have? I mean, I had people in my life, 26 years in banking, but after a while, you know, it's kind of like people know. I knew who was giving me BS and who was authentic, right? So, and unfortunately, in this business, a lot of people get by. We don't wanna do that. Right? Because that's what makes it a scalable business, makes it a long lasting way. And that's, and unfortunately, people don't take that serious because the new attrition rate came from realtors, I believe it's at like a 87%. Out of 100, 13 make it. In the first 5 years, they go out of business.
Repeat that statistic again?
87%. It used to be actually, it used to be 90, you know why? And the reason why is because the market is so easy. That probably that's why it went down, because it used to be 94%.
94%
Don't make it.
94%.
94, that means that out of 100, only 6 people make it after 5 years.
I thought 20% of the realtors are the one that produce data.
That's a different, that's a different thing. What that is that 20% do the majority of the business. Okay, like if you look at the list, that they post here about the production, it's about 370, almost 380 agents.
Getting close to 400, yeah.
Right. But if you look at that sheet, probably 60 people, the first 60 people,
Yeah.
that's the 20% that do most of the business. And then we have the one, the two, so whatever. But that's what that means. Yeah, just like, but that can be applied to anything. To anything. And that's why they always say, focus on the 20%. And again, develop your skills based on your strengths. Like witness. And Joe Maxwell talks about that. And I have one day I'm going to use it for that. And then I'm just like sure. So, and like I told you before, I am absolutely not afraid of giving you my trick bag. And the reason why is because nobody can do anything. And unfortunately, I have this all the time. And that's why we volunteer to teach the classes because we want and to know that it can be done, right? So, and the reason why it is, stick with it. Joe Maxwell talks about that if you're a good speaker, let's say you're 7, you can improve, if you really work at it, you can improve that by 2. So if you're a 7 and an 8, you can be a 9 and a 10. A 9 or 10 speaker, not that you're being invited to speak, you're being paid to speak. But if you're a horrible speaker, you're a 2. And you work really hard, you do everything that the 7 and the 8 did, you can become a 4. You still stop at the speaker. Nobody's gonna ever pay you to speak, right? So same thing that has to do with our strength. What are we good at? What are we natural at? What I mean, like me, I hate paperwork. I did not know how to do paperwork in real estate. Then 3 years later. Yeah, I just never do it. I partnered out with somebody like, love paperwork. And then, I went with TC, I went with them. I love the negotiation part, I love, that's just like one of my favorite things. Okay, and, so if I consider myself maybe a 2, but you tell, I'm a D, I'm like 100% D, like 99.95. 2, C, and, the DISC assessment. And like D and C are like, when they come here. Do you think I want to focus on improving those 2? There's nothing. I mean, I'm gonna do it and protect myself and not get in trouble. But when it has to do with somebody that me doing that kind of work, you will make me miserable. You will make me miserable. So identify what you do that. And just work on it, and you're gonna become great. And then you just and then you just leverage the things that you don't like to do. Okay? And the sooner you get around that, the faster you're gonna be in business.
How do you identify what you do?
Well, why are you? I mean, what do you normally do that doesn't take a lot of effort? Yeah.
That doesn't take a lot of effort.
Yeah, like something that you do naturally, something that you just like, just not do it.
I can connect with people, I can talk to people.
Okay, well, this is all business, like I can build a real estate business just around that. Right? How about you and the team, right?
Yeah.
Well, how about you tell Gary, you know what, Gary? All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go talk to people, I'm gonna bring in the buyers. How do you think that you keep that allowed? You think you will be happy if you just, really, you don't just dump the buyers and sell it to them? You'd be excited. You'd be getting paid. You don't have to do it, this business, that's what I love about it, and that's what I left my corporate executive job at a bank, maybe $240,000 a year to do this. Because I'm the limit. There, there was no more, you know, with being a barely high school graduate, and I worked my ass off to get to that level. There was not more. I was just one, actually, I was one of 4 executives for this bank right here, mother. That was my last 5 years of my career. But I recognized my shortcomings. To compete, whenever I wanted something great, I was competing with MBAs and people like my son. Okay, so I said, where can I go to where I can make more than that? And this was it. And he actually kept me doing something that I love. I mean, a lot of what I did in banking, I can focus. I can focus you have to open this many accounts. Well, Fargo, I can open in close accounts. So I didn't bother at all with the performance of the branch. You know what was my strength? Getting people to work together. And the moment I got the team to sing kumbaya together, work together, sales happened. Customer service improved. Right, so what was my focus? People, getting them to work, getting them to communicate, okay? Stopping that manager from when, don't do that again. The bubble, a lot of managers have that problem, because it's one of the things that irritate employees the most, is when they like, don't do that again, okay? The bubble, and a lot of people do it because they think they're correcting something and they're just damaging it. So that was my strength. In this business, negotiating a transaction and getting parties to come together and then to close it, that's what I love. I hate paperwork. Okay. So and then we all have that. That's what I said. Go to TonyRobbins.com / this, and you can do the big stuff with the assessment. And that way you're gonna know what kind of personality you are. And you're gonna read your personality. You can, like mine, SC, this. It says, those people, those C and that, those are the people that are attention for detail. Those are the CPAs, those are the accountants, those are the people that cross every T and dot every I. Guess what I is? Sociable, party animal. They just like to be with people, and the D is also direct. So a lot of executives, by the way, most of them are Ds. Give me the short version, and knowing that and who you are exists is the most important, because let me tell you, I have gone to listen to presentations. I could interview the doctor. The first experience that I had with them, I got my pile of stuff, and I'm ready to like present. You good, where you contract? He does 100%. Okay, you don't have time for all that. When you look at the first rodeo, and that's what I say, you know your audience. Ask the question, oh, is this the first time you sold in the house? Well, have you sold it? I mean, that way you know, because you don't have to go into some detail. So understanding that is huge, because if somebody, look, normally the S and C, I want some, you know, like, in a group of people, they're the ones that are like on the outside, real quiet, you know, cross-handed. Even I goes and start talking to them really loud and like excited, they're like, they're gonna go into the wall even more. There are sellers like that. So you kind of. You just, I know, I say this yesterday, because, you know, people like to say that you become a chameleon, because that's almost not very authentic. But it is what you, it is what you do, you just study, you know, you just mirror the people that it is. I know I'm overshare, but thank you for tolerating me for 2 hours. I want to be respectful of your time, so please go ahead. All right, thank you for being here. Well, they're done.
There's another Zoom thing for new agents right now as well, that's, so I'm gonna go.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Well, thank you, guys.
What is it, you said, Tony Rock, I thought I had